Hey everybody, welcome back for another week with PROPEL K12 board members as we lead these webinar series. So today's discussion topic is around cutting DE&I programs. The executive order, many of you who are familiar with the thought of dismantling the Department of Education, but also cutting back or getting rid of DEI programs, initiatives, and funding, right? So the recent warnings related to DE&I or diversity, equity, and inclusion raise significant concerns for both K-12 and higher ed. My perspective is that cutting DE&I funding not only undermines the progress we've made towards fostering inclusive environment, but it also represents a loss of support for a multitude of identities. Now, hear this. It's not just race, but gender, sexual identity, religion, disability, veterans issues. So DEI initiatives are crucial for creating an educational space where all students and staff feel valued, safe, and empowered to succeed. If these programs are eliminated, we risk marginalizing vulnerable populations and stifling the diversity of thought and experience that enriches our educational system. Now, for those of you who think DE&I is just about race, let me share a little bit more perspective on what DE&I is. Ramps and sidewalks on curb cuts, subtitles and captions in television and movies, family restrooms, changing tables in men's restrooms, floating paid holidays, parental leave, work accommodations for a variety of disabilities, flexible work arrangements, employee recognition programs, employee resource groups, documents and materials in different languages, accessible bikes and public transportation accommodations, student FAFSA and loan. That's just a little bit about what DE&I is. I've got Ivan Lochin, board member from Propel K12, also here with me to shed some light on this perspective. Ivan, what are your thoughts?
I love as we compare both the student experience, both K through 12, higher ed, and the workplace, because those are three things which are interconnected.
Yeah.
Just as you pointed out, DEI is so much more than just a quota to hire a certain group at a certain percentage for certain roles. Like that is, we are not in the 70s anymore with the civil rights of literally trying to get people into the workplace and struggling, fighting resistance against that. We're no longer there, and the new forms are employee resource groups. Like that is a huge one of just clubs, student organizations and clubs, whether that is gender based. I mean, if you talk about Girl Scouts versus Boy Scouts, are they going to be affected by this down the line? If you talk about certain nationality and community group based ones like Caribbean Students Associations and groups like this, you can't even talk anymore about gender statistics, which will be an interesting challenge of when you talk about sexual assaults on campuses. If you can't mention that predominantly women are impacted by this, or predominantly it's male individuals as predators or offenders, we're no longer allowed to even mention these gender-based statistics. So it's going to become a much more complicated challenge, an issue of impacting the student experience, which then will translate to the workplace,
Absolutely.
way more than saying, I don't want someone hired only on merit or not hired because of merit, which we talk about. And somebody might think, oh, I don't want someone getting a job just because they're of a gender, a race, an orientation. And that's exactly the point why we have DEI initiatives. If you go back to the 70s, before schools were integrated, before the workplace was really integrated, it was predominantly white and male. The entire point of diversity is
Mm.
simply meaning we want everyone to have a merit-based shot. I want a merit-based chance. So it's not about putting someone who's less qualified. It's saying, let's look at all of these different qualified candidates and people. How do we make sure they all have opportunities to even have a chance at this position, in this role,
Yeah.
as a student, or at this school?
Yeah. Great point. Yeah. So here's my one solution. You all know if you've been watching us for some time, we always talk about the problem and share perspective, and we always allow you to walk away with either one or two tangible solution strategies that you can implement immediately. So one of my thoughts this morning, Ivan, is the reallocation of resources strategically. So if there's this hammer coming down about we're going to remove DE&I related funding because we have earmarked it, that's been a line item in our budgets. Our chief financial officers, in K-12 have had that line item for quite some time. So in the face of potential funding cuts, school leaders specifically can look for innovative ways to reallocate those existing resources to maintain those programs, right? So what does that look like? This may involve integrating DE&I training, if that's a line item, or into professional development for all staff, or partnering with local organizations to enhance DE&I programming so that you don't rely on federal dollars, right? Additionally, school leaders can engage with the community to identify support and funding opportunities from private foundations and local businesses that align with DE&I values to ensure that these essential initiatives continue to thrive. And Ivan, you and I and the rest of the board, we've talked extensively around school leaders not wanting to treat the school like a business, right? For school districts to really get through some of these challenging times, you have to look at the school as a business. And in this instance, if funding is going to be removed, you've got to figure out, even if you don't have this role, right, a director of development, find somebody in the organization, chief of staff, or someone in the executive cabinet, or maybe a principal who has had 25 years of experience and has graduated three or four different generations. Find somebody who's really good at like galvanizing community efforts to raise money to fund areas that may be removed because of the mandate from the president. My thoughts. What do you think?
Absolutely. On the funding part, schools already focus so much on local taxes. You have to think outside of that of let's partner with local community groups, business groups, organizations to do programs. That's a great one. Being able to sponsor certain events, that's great. Connect with them for mentorship programs, internships, all of these things to help with. Also, think of the success of school as a business. We need to get better at quantifying the impact of certain programs, whether that's student clubs and organizations, teaching kids the social skills they need to have, or understanding the bigger picture. We need to have both students and teachers get educated on what's actually happening and informed. We need to be able to organize and collaborate together as a unified front. And then you have to empower them on knowing what you can and can't do. If we have the president saying you can no longer illegally protest with masks on, well, what is an illegal protest versus a legal protest? You legally are allowed to protest. Find the definition, the difference, and be able to empower your groups collaboratively so that not just your students know what to do, but the administrators know what's happening, the teachers know what's happening, and you're able to go as one unified school to protect both students and your campus.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. So you've heard it from us. Propel K-12. Continue to follow our webinar series each week as we continue to discuss some of the more trendy and challenging topics related to K-12 education. We have a virtual summit coming up in June. Stay tuned as more information comes out about that. Have a great week, everybody.